customization, and for today you can just say no. But if we wanted to save the work, we would say yes, but today we'll just say no. Okay, did you find it? Great. Did you get it?
Yes. It's actually titled Why Polar Bears Like Snow and Flamingos Don't.
And flamingos don't. All right. So I'm going to have my book out here for you. All right. So we got Gage up and rolling.
Yeah, yes.
All right, great. Okay. So I love this book, and I'm not kidding about that. It's an amazing, interesting book. It's about animal adaptations. Can you say that word?
Animal adaptation.
Adaptations, and what that means is an adaptation is a special behavior or a body part that enables an animal to survive in a particular environment. And that's what this book is all about. So as we read, what I'm going to be asking you to do is I'll show you how to do some highlighting. We're going to do some highlighting and some note-taking here as we think about what are the specific adaptations that any animal has in the region that you happen to be reading about. So I'm going to model for you exactly what to do, so no worries, but then I'm going to let you choose which environment you would be interested in reading about. So watch for just a second here up on my computer. Can you all see it okay? Right, there you go. And now, in order to get the page to turn, you see when I flip out the bottom, it corners the page up, and I can turn the page just by tapping that. The other thing that I can do is you see the arrow down at the bottom. All I have to do is tap that arrow, and you see all the pages in the book will come up, so you can quickly go to the page that you want. And the page that I'm going to be starting at is actually page 4. So if you would turn to page 4, the title is The Arctic. It's cold out there. And when you get that page up, then all you need to do is hit the down arrow, and it will get rid of those other pages, and it will expand it for you, okay? So, animal adaptation. So first thing I want to do is I'm sort of looking at this page here, is I'm going to take a look at the locator map because I want to understand where in the world I am. So I'm up in the Arctic, and I'm thinking a little bit about what do I know about Arctic. Well, because it's so far away, right, the equator is kind of in the center of the Earth, and the further away I get from the equator, what happens to the temperatures?
It gets hotter.
It gets colder, right. So any environment near the equator, very warm. As we move away from the equator to the poles, either the north or the south poles, it gets chilly. So if I look at the locator map, what I can see is I'm way up at the top, so very cold. Now, let me think for just a second, and let me give you a chance to think about this. Using what you know, what might be some possible adaptations for any animal living in the Arctic cold environment? So I'm going to have Hannah and Ben, I'm going to have you turn and talk. I'm going to have Gage and Katie turn and talk and share, what do you think you know? What are possible behaviors or body parts that would enable an animal to live in this particular environment? So turn and talk.
The fur.
That's what, but what if you're not a fur-bearing animal? What if you're an ocean animal? Okay. That would enable you to move. Anything else you can think about? Can you think of colors? What color might you be if you live in that area and you want to survive? Blend in with the snow, so that would be some camouflage. All right. So, all right. So let's come back. All right. So I know what Katie and Gage talked about. How about you two? What did you come up with? What might be some possible adaptations?
Fat.
Tell me more about that.
When fat's really thick, they have an extra layer of fur and fat. Really thick fat.
It's an insulator, isn't it? Right?
It helps it keep warm. Like the fur just more.
Excellent. Anybody else?
And hot.
Tell me more about that.
They're hot, so they can blend in with the snow.
And there's another word for when an animal blends in. Do you know what it's? Camouflage, right? It's camouflage. All right, so again, I'm thinking, what do I already know? And now I'm going to launch in. Now when I see an adaptation, I'm going to highlight it. And the way that you highlight using the Chromebook, all right, so I'll hold it up so you can see it. I go over to, you see where the toolbar is, the little wrench there? And you pull it out, you tap it, and you'll see you have a pen, which is a thin line, and the next icon down there is a highlighter. And so I'm going to tap it, and that's like, when you tap it, that's the same as picking it up. Do you see it, Gage?
No.
The second pen, the highlighter. Let's see. Good, you got it. You've got it. See, there it is. Yes, all right. Now, and you'll see it'll come up with a color, and the color's fine. You don't have to worry about that. But you see how it sort of becomes, it'll let you choose a color, but I'm just going to use the yellow today. And so as I go about, when I see an adaptation, I'm just going to mark it so I can remember it. And you can highlight it, or you can even underline it, but I'll just highlight today. So let me show you exactly how I'm going to look at it, all right? So I'm starting out at the top there, and let me just read and think about adaptations. Okay, the Arctic, follow along with me, way up near the North Pole is very cold. The ground is covered with snow almost all year long. There are not very many trees or plants. In the summer, the sun never really sets, but in fall and winter, it's dark most of the time. The temperature in winter is usually about -30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is -34 degrees Celsius, and it can get even colder. Arctic animals are adapted for life in a cold place. They have some interesting ways of keeping warm and protecting themselves. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here, and here's what I want to do. I want to highlight, if I can, oops, I'm going to highlight this temperature, -30 degrees Fahrenheit. So here in Kingsport, if it gets down to 17, brr. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the mouse, right, and just draw a straight line, and there we go. So you get my highlight there, and that's how I'm going to highlight that, because I think it's important if I think about adaptations. It gets to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. You got it. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It takes a little practice to kind of make sure that you get it. Okay? Did you get it? Yeah? Perfect. You're going to hold down. So I just kind of do a click and drag it across. So here's -30 degrees. So I'm going to hold it and drag. Did it highlight for you? Oh wait, let me get my pen back. All right. Why isn't yours highlighted? Let's see. Ah, there it is. Sorry. How do I? There it is. All right. So I just pushed and then dragged. All right. So let me keep reading, and let me see if I can find another adaptation. Okay. So I'm reading on page 5 at the top there. One way Arctic animals stay warm is by having lots of fur. Another is by having a lot of fat. Polar bears have both, lots of warm fur and a thick layer of fat just under the skin. The fat acts like an extra layer of clothing to keep out the cold. All right, so what were some adaptations that we heard here? Yeah. A lot of fur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my highlighter pen, right, and I'm going to hold down, and I'm going to do having lots of fur. I'm going to be having lots of fur. There we go. And what was another adaptation that they talked about? A layer of fat. All right, so I'm going to highlight a lot of fat. Okay. There we go. Okay. Good for you to go back and kind of reread. And notice that I just read a small section, and then I stopped and I thought before I moved on. All right?
Mom did something.
There you go. Just tap it off there. All right? Perfect. Okay. So I already know Arctic. I'm going to keep reading through to see if I can find more adaptations. Remember, that's a behavior or a specific body part that enables an animal to live in an environment. Now, I'm going to let you go ahead and read and practice, but I'm not going to tell you what region to read about. So I'm going to come back to the table of contents, way over here. All right, I'm going to give it a minute to kind of load that page up. Oops. I'm going to let you pick what animal or what place you want to read.
We go back to paper.
So I'm going to go back to the table of contents. Kind of help me see. So the bottom arrow down here, and you head back to that table of contents. Just click on that page. And boom, there it loads up. And then if you want this to go, now some of you still have the pen out, so if you need to drop the pen, right? So you're kind of cruising through the book with the pen. To drop it, you simply hit the wrench. Or actually, I like to do the arrow and then hit the wrench, and you'll have put the pen down. And then when you go to highlight again, you simply put that wrench out, click your highlighter pen, tap it, and your highlighter pen will come back. All right? So where do you want to read? You guys pick.